go ahead and get started, and if people join in later, they can. Let me pray for us, and then we'll start. Jesus, thank you so much for this time that we have together tonight. I just thank you for each of these women and just where they're at in their walk with you, with their families, Jesus. I pray that you would just meet us here, Holy Spirit, that you would guide our conversation, that you would just fill this time with joy, wisdom, and I pray that we would just grow and be strengthened because of our time together. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Well, I wanted to start off with kind of like a fun thing. So I want you to think about, and I'll start and you guys can think. But in my experience, it's really easy to complain about things that are happening right now. So I spend enough time complaining about how my life is really hard and difficult. So we're gonna think about something fun that you've been able to do. Maybe it was different, like you wouldn't have done it, might be a little bit crazy. So just kind of a fun thing you've done maybe during COVID. So mine is last Friday, actually, Cathy was so generous to come over and watch the boys. So technically I could go grocery shopping by myself. And then Tyler got home early, so we were gonna go grocery shopping together. Only one in the store at a time though, so one of us would stay in the vehicle. And then she was like, oh, just take your time, drive around if you need to. So while we were driving around enjoying the quiet, because there were no children in the car, I had this idea because we love to go to the movies. The movies are not open. And somebody was watching the kids. But in our old SUV, there is like a little attached DVD player in the back. And I was like, Tyler, we could go get a movie and some snacks and watch a movie in our car. I really didn't think he would go for it. That's kind of why I said it, because we were supposed to be going to get groceries. He was like, okay, let's do it. He was like, but listen, because we were supposed to cook that night too. And I was like, let's order in. He was like, we can do this, but you can't change your mind. Later, you can't say you want to cook and not order in. I'm like, okay, deal. We will order for sure. So we went and got a movie, and we drove to the Cinemark parking lot because we were in Lexington. So we sat in the movie parking lot and watched the movie on our children's DVD player in the back of the car. And it was actually pretty fun. So
That's excellent.
yeah, that was our fun thing. What are you guys doing for fun?
You're like nothing.
Yeah.
Well, I redid my back patio. I probably would not have done that if I had not been quarantined to my house. So that was fun. I enjoyed that. We enlarged it, and I don't know, got a new rug and new furniture and made a whole cute little space. I'm currently working on, this is going to be fun. I am making a table out of pallets. This is my first attempt at this. It's for my patio. It's going to be like a skinny one. And I'm using pavers for the top of the table. It's going to be super cute. And then I am also mixing concrete for the first time in my life. I'm taking pots, and I bought these wooden poles. They're like this big around, and I'm going to put them in the pots with cement. I'm going to fill it halfway with cement so that the wooden poles stick out, because my back porch doesn't have a cover and I want to string lights from it. So that's going to be my thing. And then I'm going to fill the pots the rest of the way with dirt and plant flowers in them. So I'm super stoked about this.
So pretty.
I know. So that's what I've been doing for fun until Jamie needed help. I've been over at her house all week and last week too. So
yeah, well, that's good. It could be something fun you're doing or something funny that happened, just something positive.
I can't think of anything.
No.
I haven't
making some masks.
I haven't left the house since we returned on April 3rd. Well, I have gone in the backyard a time or two, and pretty much the only sewing I've been doing is masks. Still making masks.
Yeah. Are y'all planting a garden this year, Barbara?
I don't do the gardening, I do the canning.
Okay.
But yes, my husband and my one friend are gonna plant a garden.
Okay. Cool.
I planted a box garden on my porch.
Also super cute.
Yeah, I took 2 long boxes, and in one I only wanted the stuff that I used to make my homemade salsa. So I have a tomato plant, 2 pepper plants, and then all kinds of different spices in the other box. So I used to garden all the time, Barbara. I used to garden and can all the time. And then my kids started doing activities, and I was like, nobody has time for all that right now. So,
Yeah.
and I never went back. When my kids grew up, I never went back to canning.
Yeah.
Hey, Ariana.
Hey, Ariana. What's up, girl? Tell us something fun you've been doing to keep your mom occupied or to drive her crazy. Dance parties.
But I have a Chromebook and it's from school and I don't turn it yet. So I'm talking to my friend on the phone right now on my Chromebook.
Well, girl, what you doing? You leave her hanging right now.
She went in the kitchen earlier to make scrambled eggs and she was like, go tell my friends that I'm fixing something to eat. So I went in there and talked to her friends. I said, listen, I'm not a bad mom. She likes cooking for herself, so she for herself.
Oh my gosh. Is that like a chicken nugget or something?
A Pringle right now.
No.
Oh, what is it? A
It's a
Grippo?
Grippo.
Okay.
Oh, Tyler loves those.
Yeah, we do too.
I don't even know what a Grippo is.
The potato chip.
Isn't it like a Kentucky thing?
Ohio or Kentucky one.
Yeah.
I know my aunt lives in South Carolina and they don't have them there. So like my other aunt who lives in Cincinnati will send her like boxes of Grippos.
Yeah. It's like a thing. People who like them, it's like a thing with them.
Yeah.
Like the best thing. I'm like, they're chips. It's okay.
It's
Fine.
Thing. People who like Ale8 will have
Yeah.
people ship them Ale8 from Kentucky.
Yeah.
Kentucky sewer water.
Yeah, it's gross, but whatever.
I actually do like LA, but
I don't like it either.
It's so gross.
Either love it or you hate it, but there's usually not a in between. It's
Right.
You're all in or you're all out. So
I had the cable guy that hooked my cable up the first time we moved here. He asked me he's like, have you had L8 yet? And I said, no. He walked to the we lived downtown at the time. He walked to the gas station and got me one. And I had to like be gracious under pressure. I was like, thanks. Nasty.
that's funny.
that's good.
Yeah. No,
Cathy, what have you been doing for fun?
I have been having giant sleepovers with my grandsons, which I would not be doing if it weren't for the COVID-19 quarantine. I would be in Egypt, far, far away from them. So there's nothing like having Jace look at you and say, I could just hug you all day long. And so for me, that's just like, yeah, the funnest thing ever. So
That's so good. I'm so happy for you.
yeah.
They're loving
I tried
it.
to get my grandkids to come down and my daughter was like, she kept putting me off. They came the first week of the quarantine, but ever since then she's been putting me off. And Jackson told me this last week, he said, well, my mommy said that's how the infection is spread. So we probably can't come till summertime. I was like, really? I was like, and then Lily said, when my mom lets me come, I'm staying the whole summer, Mimi. I said, all right.
Come on, yeah.
That's good. We all had dinner together at the house tonight, and then we left at the same time, and Jace and Sawyer were not occupied otherwise, so they were both at the door, and you would have thought we both punched them in the face when we left, because it was like Mommy and Mimi left at the same time, and it was not okay. It was not, yeah. We have definitely enjoyed having them in Kentucky.
Right? Yeah, that's nice. That's so nice.
Yeah, it's been a blessing. Well, we can jump into our conversation for tonight. Since Sunday was Mother's Day, I've been a little bummed out that we can't all be together, and then even on Sundays, I'm with the boys, and so I felt really disconnected from you guys. And so Tyler actually suggested that we kind of have a follow-up midweek with all the ladies just to kind of celebrate. And I don't know about you guys, but this, it's a struggle. This is not normal. This way of life is just different. And a constant question for me is, how do I continue to walk with Jesus well? Like, how do we not just get through this, but come out of it okay and continue walking with Jesus? And so I really just want to be able to have a discussion about that tonight. Cathy can testify to the fact that I don't really have anything planned as far as like a format or like a devotion or anything like that. I really just wanted us to be able to get together and just talk together about what it looks like to follow Jesus, especially during the season of COVID-19 that is so different. We started talking about, some of the fun things, but we don't have to dwell on it, but let's just take a couple of minutes and talk about what the struggles are, what has been hard for you during this time. We could talk for a whole hour about this. So,
I know that's right.
Yeah. Not going to church has been hard for me. Not getting a hug Melody has been hard for me.
I know that's right.
Yeah. That's about it. Because
Melody's hug.
other than work, church and ballet is the only thing that I do. And Ariana's been doing ballet on Zoom. So whatever.
How do you do that?
Yeah, her teacher just gets them all on a call, and she teaches. She's at the studio and she's just going through it, and Ariana's in her bedroom with a kitchen chair doing her little ballet moves. So
yeah, that's awesome though that they're still doing that. That's really cool.
yeah. And she will have them at the very end turn their video on so she can watch their feet, so she can make sure that they're actually doing it right and stuff like that. So
that's really cool. And Beth, by the way, in your dream the other night, the reason my arms were out the window is because I was trying for a hug. It wasn't because I wanted to hold your hand.
I know, I was thinking, oh my gosh, I had a dream the other night that I was standing outside a window. Melody was inside. I had my hands on the window and her arms were out the window because she was moving her arms as she talked. And I was standing there thinking, screw social distancing. I want to hold your hands. And I said, and also in my dream, I was thinking, I know she's thinking this too, but apparently we were rule followers in our dream. I don't know, in my dream. And we didn't touch each other. And I'm just this is crazy. I just want to give Melody a hug.
Yeah.
I told her, she texted me all that, and I texted her back and I said, she said, I knew you felt the same way. I said, oh no, I didn't want to hold your hand. I wanted a hug. I was I was trying to get a hug.
Some kind of physical contact for me would have been okay.
Yeah, I think a physical distance is really hard. You don't realize the kind of affirmation and even community that you feel just in even a handshake.
Mm-hmm.
A high five. I think even just not knowing what is acceptable and what isn't, used to it was very clear, you could expect a handshake or a high five or a hug, and now it's even it's just so countercultural even to how friendly we're used to being, and so it almost makes me feel like I'm not a friendly person, because I can't interact in that way. But mine really has been, my biggest stress has been that Tyler and I both work and we have zero childcare right now. And well, right now that is not true. Cathy is really helping us with that. But it's not just that like I need to work and I don't have childcare. It's like the stress for me. Of wondering like how my kids feel, like not wanting them to feel like they're in the way or I don't have time for them, and I think just that constant pull between like, I really do need to work, but I really do need to interact well with my kids too. So that has been just like a huge stress, I think. And then not feeling like you ever have that compartmentalized time for things. So it makes it harder to do other things too, because I feel like I'm always being pulled away from the boys to do something. That just doesn't feel fair to them. So that's been pretty hard.
I really thought would be on here tonight.
You what?
They're not.
Who?
I thought more people would be on, but I'm kind of bummed that they're not.
Aw. You have to round them all up, Beth. Barbara, I think you were trying to talk. But it was
I was, and I had muted it again because my son had come up here. I guess my biggest stressor at first was that my youngest son in New York City lost his job. And of course, then it became like the really hot spot. So I was kind of glad he lost his job because he worked in Times Square area. But then, was he going to get the unemployment, which he is, because his rent's like $850 a month. And but that all worked out. And the only other thing I can say that's a stressor is, after being gone for 5 months, I come back and I can't come to church and see you all. And all my quilting things are canceling. I had crafts camp and a retreat, and they all canceled.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, ugh. So really, life's pretty good.
Yeah, that's hard. Those things that you really enjoy that are fun for you and an outlet. It's hard. Anybody else can share, but you don't have to.
I think the biggest stressor for me, like through the whole process of COVID-19 was, well, it really was Paul working at home like that. Not that, Traci, you and I had this conversation. It's not that he was doing anything wrong. He was just disrupting my routine, like so much, like to the extreme that, because for some reason, I don't know why, we set his office up in the front room of our house. So like, and Traci, you've seen my house, like everything else is open to that space. So, and I have a definite routine, like, and I am not a quiet person. I'm just not. I'm not a quiet person. I like worship music and I like it loud. I like to sing at the top of my lungs. This is just what I do when I'm going through my morning routine. And I think I shared this with you and Tyler at one point, Traci, but like over the course of several weeks, Paul went back to work last week. So that has been alleviated a lot. And again, wasn't doing anything wrong other than disrupting my routine, like seriously. But he would be on Zoom meetings and this, that, and the other, or on a phone call. And so like, I always felt like I couldn't make any noise, which for an extrovert is, whereas Paul is an introvert and he like internalizes things and he recharges his batteries, so to speak, by being alone. My batteries are recharged by being around people and by noise outside of my body. Like that's what recharges and refuels me. So like not having any of that, I think the culmination was like 2 weeks ago, right before Paul went back to work. And I went to bed one night and he had been in bed for probably an hour or so. But when I came to bed, he said something to me. I don't even know what it was. So I was like, I just started talking and he's like, you do know I was sleeping, right? And I just burst into tears. I'm so tired of being shushed and not being able to tell poor Paul. He was probably like, what is happening right now? I just lost it.
Yeah.
So I feel like that was really the hardest part for me was being quiet, like, which Yeah. I mean, it just is like, I'm a noisy person. So
Yeah.
I thrive on noise and activity.
Micah has been here, and he and I do not have the same taste in music. And he's like you, Melody, like loud music, like all the time. And, you know, I'm just like, oh my gosh. And it's like, it's stuff that has foul language in it. And I'm just like, please, like, can you just wear headphones? But then when he wears headphones and I want to talk to him, I'm like, Micah, da 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 da, like saying something. And then he's like just walking around, like bebopping or whatever. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
Right?
But I asked
Yeah.
him, you know, I'm like, why do you have to have that so loud? And I mean, if he were listening to music I wanted to listen to, it'd be okay. But I can't handle like Lil Peep and stuff like that. Like, no.
I don't even know who that is, Beth.
Listen to Lauren
Peep.
or like we went somewhere the other day and he was like, Mom, can we listen to something different? Like, I'm okay with your worship music, but there's all kinds of different styles of worship music. And I can't stand this stuff you listen to. I'm like, sorry, dude. Like, I'm driving, so we're listening to what I want.
That's funny. There's all different kinds of worship music.
Yeah. So I want to listen to like Lecrae, which is, you know, more like the noise that he likes to listen to. Does have the message. Whatever. I
So
just
funny.
like Lauren Daigle and, you know, I like Dave Crowder, stuff like that. But he's like, Mom, do we have to listen to this?
Okay, I just want to go on record and say, now that you mentioned Lauren Daigle, that was another bummer for me. Traci and I were supposed to go see Lauren Daigle on April 30th. That is the third time I was supposed to see her. I'm just like, okay, maybe I'm just not supposed to see her in concert. Like, what is happening right now? This is the third time.
Did they reschedule it?
They are going to. So like our tickets will be the same when they do, but they have not, as of yet, they have not. And my daughter actually had tickets in March and hers got canceled too, but she was in Illinois and they rescheduled hers to September, but they've already canceled that again.
Yeah.
The state of Illinois canceled all forms of public gathering for the whole summer, all festivals, they canceled the 4th of July. They canceled everything already. I'm like, what the heck? It's only May.
Yeah. Illinois is pretty strict right now. What they can do.
Yes.
So I know like we've all had our different struggles and stresses, and for a lot of us, it's also that we can't go to church, which is where we go a lot of times, you know, for peace, for community. And so on the little caption, if you've seen it for tonight, that was kind of the question in my mind, like, what does it look like to follow Jesus during COVID-19? Because this is a really unprecedented season. It's been at least like 100 years, the Spanish flu, you know, and that was going around. And so we really haven't experienced this in our generation where we really can't come to the church right now. And so we're having to find other ways, creative ways to follow Jesus. And we know that it's best when we can follow Jesus together in community. But we're really isolated at the same time. And so just finding those ways to still connect with God and take care of our souls. There are a lot of external things that are happening, a lot of external stressors, whether it's really loud worship music or really loud not worship music, or if it's, you know, people in your space, or you're worried about family, or, you know, whatever. There are always those things going on the inside. And so I think what's so important right now is having to find or what's going on the outside. So how do we find out, at least on the inside, to have that peace and ease and contentment, even though we really don't know what the next day is going to look like, whether it's going to be the same or it will open up. And so I don't really have any like formulas for these are the 3 ways you can follow Jesus during COVID-19 and you're going to be blessed. I really just wanted us to be able to maybe talk about the different ways that we're finding that we're connecting with Jesus. And if we're struggling with that, you know, obviously talking about other ways that you can. So for me, our schedules have been really crazy. And there are a variety of ways we do this, but especially when this all started, Jace was still trying to wake up at like 6:30 or 6:45 in the morning. And I was like, no, we're not doing that. So we went out and got him a digital alarm clock because he knows his numbers. And we said, do not come out of your room until there is a 7 on this side of the clock. So I know that I should have at least until 7 a.m. So in the mornings, I'm trying to get up during those times and use that time to like be in the Word or pray or just sit really still and enjoy the peace and the quiet. That is one of the ways that I've found that's been most helpful. There's just a lot of peace in that moment when I'm in the chair and it's quiet and nobody else is in there. And so I just want to talk about some of the ways that we are finding that are helping us connect with God and follow Jesus during a season that looks a little bit different. So you guys can tell me how, like, talk about.
I'll go first.
Okay.
I'll go first. I think the first.
I really asked that in the question. Or?
I think for me, like one of the things that I did early on, again, being an extrovert, like there's no in between for me. When I took the Myers-Briggs, like, you know, here's the center and you can be here or here on the scale of extrovert. And I was extroverted to like the umpteenth degree. Like there's no in between for me. So I really, really struggled when we first went on lockdown. I think I went to the grocery store every day just so I could get out of the house. I was like, even if I didn't need anything, I thought of something that I needed just because I have to have that. And I got to a point where I was really almost apathetic. I shared this with Tyler in my discipleship with him, one-on-one with him this month, because it was kind of scary because that's not usually me. I'm very upbeat. But it was like one day I took a nap. I never nap. Paul's like, are you okay? And I was like, I don't know if I'm okay. Like I don't ever nap during the middle of the day. And so the way that I just allowed God to pull me up out of that was, I mean, I always have my quiet time in the morning. And again, Traci, I agree with like that, just that moment, those moments in the morning when you take the time, whether it's a long time or a short time. I'm in a season of life where I can give a good amount of time in the morning. And I have really grown a lot in that season without small children. You know, I can devote a lot of time in the morning to my quiet time, but just being in his presence, like just one of the things, like, I mean, I always have I'm praying for this, I'm praying for this, I'm praying for this. And one of the things he's been teaching me is it's okay just to sit here in my presence. Like, you don't have to have a list. You can just sit here and let me recharge you. You know, let me be the one that recharges you. And one of the things that he just prompted in my spirit to do was read back through my journals. And I started reading, and it was just so incredible to see where I was and where he's brought me to, and all of the different ways that he has just, I probably cry, just redeemed my life. For those of you that don't know, I mean, I'm a recovered alcoholic, and God reached his hand down into the deepest pit and pulled me back up and set my feet on a rock. And I just read back through all of the ways he brought healing in my life. And because I journaled all of that, I journaled that whole process, and it was just so refreshing and so cool just to look back and see all of the things, you know, because I think that's why journaling is so important, because sometimes we can forget like what he did and how he changed this situation or that situation. And I was so grateful for my journal because I literally spent, that's what I did in my quiet time for almost 3.5 weeks. I just read through my journals during that time period of my life, and just all the things, the ways that he redeemed my life and relationships and everything. And it was just, and he just restored that peace. And he restored my joy. That's what he did, because I was becoming apathetic, I really was. And so he just used all that, used what he had already done in my life to restore my joy in this time period. So that was really cool.
That's really good.
That's good. I usually do a journal, like one journal a year, like usually through the year, I'll finish a full journal almost the very week. And since January, the beginning of January of 2020, I finished one journal already and have started on the next one. Like, I have no idea what it says. It just feels good to write.
Yeah.
Usually I'm like, oh, wait, I haven't written in here for 6 days, so now I need to catch up kind of feeling. So it's not like, oh, I write like this all the time, but I thought, wait, I just bought this. Wow.
Yeah.
This is okay.
Well, it was funny because as I was reading back through it, and I hadn't journaled. I hadn't really been journaling since this all started. And there was a gap in my journaling that I think it was about, I don't know, it was like 4 to 6 weeks worth of time that I just didn't journal. Not because I wasn't like having my quiet time, I just didn't journal. And it was funny because one day, as I was reading back through this, I wasn't even journaling while I was doing that. I was just reading my old journals. And I got to a point in my journal where, clearly God spoke to my heart because I wrote it in there, and it just said in big block letters, it's time to start journaling again. And that was like from 2018. I was like, okay, that message is still true today. So I did start journaling again.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Beth, are you going to share?
Yeah, well, I have never journaled, and I don't know why, because I have a lot of thoughts that should go on paper, but they don't. And I keep telling Micah too, because Micah will tell me stuff, and I'm like, Micah, you really need to be writing this stuff down. And then I'm thinking, well, I should really be writing my stuff down too, but I don't know. So I don't know. Maybe y'all should pray for me that I start journaling, because I really should.
And that's one of the beauties of journaling. It doesn't have to be a pressure. It's not like something you might go 6 weeks or a year and not do, and it's giving yourself grace to do that. But the one thing, like Melody was saying, I have found, it has been a marker in my life where I can go back, and I did the same thing. I started reading old journals. You can go back and you can read, and you see the markers where God has just marked your life. And look, I was going this direction and he turned me to the right direction. And it just does something to your faith. It strengthens you. And especially when life gets chaotic, even though we're all like sheltered in one place, mostly it's chaotic because it's not what it's supposed to be. And it's the same repetition every day. For us, our lives change all the time. There's so much transition, it's almost unhealthy for our people. And we're constantly trying to figure out how to do the opposite. Like, how do we ground ourselves? But I found that being grounded in one place every single day, it's like I have the time. And usually we have like a chair that we go to, or a place where we do our quiet time. But if you're doing that over and over and over every single day, and you're not seeing anything different, I am the extrovert too. And so I'm used to, I need people, I need to go outside. I need to, like, I'm looking for a dog to talk to, somebody. I'm talking to myself, and I'm winning arguments with myself. I know I need to find something to do. I found that if I change it up, like just a different scenery, walk outside, if it's around the circle of a trash can, whatever it is, do something that visibly mixes it up. And it's not that you have to pray, you have to journal, you have to fast, you have to do this. It's, have I been with him? Did I get that soul rest that allows him to recharge me, like you were saying, and that I can stay focused in the way that I need to. Yeah. And so, some seasons I pray more, some seasons I worship. It's having that balance of, it's all there, But there's also a grace that if I went 6 days or 6 weeks without journaling, it's still okay. Am I still in his presence? Am I still moving forward? Am I in the word? Those type of things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I found myself praying myself to sleep at night just because like when I say like a lot of times in the morning I have just been just soaking in his presence, you know, like that's what I've been doing. But then at night I just still I have felt like such an urgency and such a I guess urgency is really the best word for my daughters that are not walking with the Lord. Like I just feel like that sense of urgency in this time. And they're both liberal to the extreme. And I mean, they just are. And so like my heart just aches for that because, you know, I mean, in the time that we're in and the uncertainty and just there's so many different things that Jesus is coming back and it's not going to be that long before he does, I don't think. So I mean, I don't want them to get left behind. So like that sense of urgency has just really been heavy on my heart. So now I've been doing my list of prayers that I pray for at night when I lay down to go to sleep, literally just praying myself to sleep. So over my daughters.
Yeah. Good. Any other ways that you all have found that are helping you walk with Jesus?
I don't have much to add. I'm definitely not a journaler. I'm there with Beth. But I've been enjoying the online services since we can't come to church. I'll start out sometimes watching a little bit of Kingsway, and then I watch all of yours. Then I'll switch over and watch some of JP's down in Tennessee.
Yeah.
You know, I've been watching services for like 3 hours or something.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. But there are a few people going to the church. Melanie and my husband been showing up at the church quite often. I think they're going again tomorrow, aren't they?
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
We're about to finish up that room tomorrow, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that's good.
Green Team Central.
It's gonna be good. I've been listening to some podcasts. I'm trying to listen to like sermons when I'm driving because I have tuned into our services and I try to comment, but it's normally with children running around and screaming in the background. So it's fun, but it's different. So just finding those. This past Sunday, I had the boys. Jace, I had him watch the kids' service while our service was going on, and normally I've been trying to watch it with him. I was like, Mama needs to be loud and worship today. And so he actually watched my phone, and I gave Sawyer an iPad and just put a show on for him. And I was like, if you want to go in your room and watch it, you can, because I'm going to be loud. I'm going to bust out these songs. I made sure I had some fresh coffee in my hand. My window was open. I was like, if my neighbors are by, whatever. I was just like singing my heart out to Jesus. I was like, oh, it feels so good. Just sing a worship song. So I know that's one thing we've been doing too, just leaving like worship music on in our house. Like that has been helpful. And because Beth, I know you mentioned having some of that, you know, having music on in your house or in your car. One of the things that Tyler has done in the mornings too is like listening to the Bible app, Read. You can turn that on audio. Because a lot of times I'll actually leave early in the morning and work, and so he'll be with the boys around the house and he turns that on. But one of the other things that I feel like has really grounded me is just trying to listen to the Holy Spirit. Like, I don't even know if I can explain this, but like, I think if we listen, like pay attention to our soul, like our spirit, like when we maybe take that time to slow down, I've noticed that like, maybe I'm anxious about something, I'm worried about something, and it doesn't matter what it is, because we're all worried about different things, or we're all anxious about different things. I'm finding that I'm having to control like what I let in, which is hard because one of the only ways we're connected with people right now is through our phones, through social media. But I'm actually finding Jesus like saying, like, stop. Like, there's too much noise. Don't listen to another podcast. I've like taken social media off of my devices except for my computer. I've made it really hard for me to access social media. And I'm not saying like everybody has to do that, but I notice within me, like, one, I don't have very much self-control. So when I do have time to rest, I'll just scroll and scroll and scroll, and I don't stop. I'm like, I'm an adult. What is happening? I don't even need to know all this stuff. And then I'm on my phone, so like my arms and everything's like just tired. I'm like, I'm not resting. And it just makes all of these things go. And so I'm finding that even like giving myself less access to all of those things, all of the news, even all of the people, there's a part at first where you like kind of feel left out and like the world is going on without you. And then there's a point where there's like a piece to that. Like, you know what? The world can go on without me. It's okay because I'm walking with Jesus and he's in control of my life. Like anything I need to know, literally, he will make sure I know it. And anything I need to be doing, he will make sure that I'm doing it. And any person I need to be around and be in contact with, he will make sure that I do that. And so for me, even like watching what I allow myself to have access to, I can just tell the peace that I have when I'm not surrounded by noise and information all the time. And none of those things are bad because like I do want to be informed. I do want to know, you know, what I should or shouldn't be doing if I'm going to the grocery store, all of those things. But I've just noticed in the ebb and flow of these weeks, sometimes I've been okay to like listen to those things and have access to it. And then there comes a point where I'm like, I'm not doing well. And I just need to turn it off and be with Jesus and my family and let that be enough. And that's been really, really sweet for me.
Rest is a weapon, my friend.
It is. It is. Well, I was on a call this week for stress management. It was led by I need to keep that open. It was led by a physician. And so she was just talking about, she's a believer, just talking about how stressful life was, you know, for her during med school. So just sharing some wisdom with us about what it's like to manage stress during really stressful times. And one of the last things that she brought up was to rehearse the faithfulness of God. And that was just really, really good. And I think that it's kind of what you and Cathy touched on, Melody, about what journaling helps us do, is that we go back and we rehearse the faithfulness of God. It encourages us where we are, because we remember what God has brought us through. So when we read his word, we are aware of the gospel and what he has brought his people through during that time. But God's been faithful to us in our own lives as well. And so I'd love to just take a minute for you to think about a way God's been faithful to you, whether it's been in this immediate season or if maybe the Holy Spirit will recall something from years ago. But I would love for us just to take a minute and rehearse the faithfulness of God, that we would just declare out loud a way that God has been faithful to you. And Christy, I know you've kind of been listening in, but if you want to chime in, you can too, anytime.
I'll just go ahead and say something. My life has just been super busy. I worked from home prior to this, so my work situation didn't change. So that part of my life didn't change at all, but everything got more chaotic in trying to take care of and do extra things for my mom and my grandmother because of their age and high risk category. So it added a lot of extra burden that I didn't previously have. And it's been kind of hard really to get the rest that you were talking about.
Yeah.
And I love what Cathy said, and I can't remember the exact words she said, but she said the soul rest. And I'm still struggling to get that right now. I'll be honest. It's been kind of trying for me. But, you know, in all of this, you know, God has taken care of me. He's, you can't outgive God. And this is kind of one of those things that, you know, it might not mean much to most people, but, you know, we had some wind damage on our house, and the roof was old. And so I honestly didn't hold out much hope that the insurance company would pay very much on it. And I knew we would be looking at a substantial bill to re-roof our home. The insurance settlement that we were awarded, the roofer, who has been in business 40 some odd years, said was extremely generous. And she had never seen a roof that old be given that much money. And it's just one of the little blessings from God that even though I'm struggling right now with, you know, having that soul rest and being able to spend that time, that He's showing me His blessings during all of this.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. He sees us.
Yes. Yes. He sees what we need. And it just kind of, you know, it just renews your faith, that, you know, He's going to provide everything that we need. And that I'm not going to be without. And if it's a legitimate need, not just a Christy want, you know, He's going to take care of that. And just keep it in your prayers. I'm praying that Derek and I get to meet up for our anniversary, because I haven't seen him since the beginning of March, and our anniversary is at the end of May, and we were supposed to meet up together. And, you know, with all of this, we still don't know if we will be able to be in the same city for our anniversary. So I'm just praying that the Lord will open the doors, and we'll find a way that we can kind of still stay segregated, because I still have, I'm still concerned about being around people, because I do take care of my mom and my grandmother, and I don't want to bring anything back to them. But you know, hopefully we can find a way that we can at least spend some time together and not be at high risk.
Yeah, we'll pray for that, Christy, for sure. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
So what are some other ways that you have seen, you've experienced the faithfulness of God, either recently or in the past?
I think for me, I see God's faithfulness consistently in where, I mean, I think we as humans, like we have a tendency to lean towards the negative. Whether it's our thoughts about ourselves or others. And for me, I mean, I you know, I've struggled with self-esteem issues most of my life, just due to circumstances in my childhood and, you know, traumatic events, things like that, whatever. But God has really, really been faithful to me in always bringing me back to that place of, who do I say you are? Like, who do I say you are? That place of identity where he just is so consistent and so faithful in pulling me back when my mind starts to go places and put too much value on what somebody else thinks, or have a negative opinion of myself, or, you know, like he always, and he always uses his word to do it, but he always brings me back and always reminds me of who I am in him. Like and I think that's key. I think that's one of the key elements, and this is just my thought process, in my opinion. I think that's one of the key elements missing in the church today, is people don't know, they don't see themselves the way God sees them. And if they could, it would change everything in their life. That's what I think. Yeah. And because it changed it. And I say that because it changed everything in my life. So I'm saying that from my own experience, but I don't always default to that. And I wish that I did, but he always is really, consistently faithful at bringing me back to that space of, like I said, who do I say you are? Who do I say you are? Because really, that's what matters.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for that in my life.
Yeah. It's good.
I guess mine is a lot along the line of Christy, I think, where you can't outgive God. We're lucky to have everything we need. And I know there's a lot of people out there struggling, so I've been giving donations to the food bank and to feeding programs and giving things to friends and people I know that need things, just freely giving things away. But yet we have as much or more money than we would normally have. And I've noticed that in the past, when we've always been self-employed, when we would sign up for a missions trip to go to South America or somewhere, God would provide the jobs. He would, he would provide the work. He didn't give us the money, but he would help us find the work we needed to have plenty of money to go on the missions trips. So you can't outgive God.
Yeah.
Amen.
That's good. That makes me emotional, Barbara. Just how God takes care of us in those ways. And like sometimes when it's like you just keep trying to give away and God will just in some way give it back. Like it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense how he does that, but he just continues to provide.
Yeah. That's so true. It's so true.
Yeah. It's hard for me to pick something because especially since when you started talking about journaling, I was just thinking about when Tyler and I we first moved to Kentucky. We pastored a small church in Bedford, and we knew we were in a moment of transition. We had had Jace. I've been praying for like a little bit about what God had for us next. We felt like he was moving us to something different, and it was such a season of uncertainty. I was teaching at the time, and our school district was consolidating, and I was one of the most recent hires, so I was one of the first to be let go. And we felt like we were in transition and would be moving, but we didn't have another job. And it was interesting because there was still a lot of like excitement, anticipation. But I remember, because I have gone back and read some of those journal entries, like just saying, God, we don't know. Like, we don't know what you're going to do. Like, these are some of the ideas that we've had. Like, even just looking at those things we listed, none of the ideas that we had of what we thought God was going to do is actually what happened. And God just like opened up every door for, where we went and the ministry that we were a part of. We didn't even go on staff anywhere. We just joined a church planting team, like just wanted to be a part of it. And God just really shaped our lives a lot there. It was the first time we both served together in vocational ministry. I didn't teach. Just really felt like I wasn't supposed to have another job outside of that. And it was just like such a pivotal moment for our family, for each of us individually, and just to see how God led us to that. Like looking back, it all just makes sense now. But when I go back and read some of those journal entries, like I didn't know. I really didn't. I lost my job. We didn't know what was going to happen. And God just provided so beautifully, like things we didn't even know that we needed. And not like even monetarily, but like life experiences that were so rich and life-changing for us that we couldn't have plans. Like he was ordering our steps in that. And that's a really neat time to think about just his faithfulness in that.
I was thinking that, Traci, I've been listening to this this podcast. It's called The Mind of a Saint. And it was funny when you were talking about her saying how you manage stress, because when I was listening to it this morning, one of the things that, how like you'll be doing something while you're listening. I was actually getting ready to go to Jamie's, but I was listening to it while I was getting ready, and it just like stops you in your tracks when you hear a certain phrase. And he said, stress is an inside job. And I was like, wait, what? Like, but it is, like, it's something we do to ourselves because we forget to claim the promise that God gives us to bring peace to our life. You know, like we allow outside circumstances. And so his recommendation, which was, I thought was really cool, is in any circumstance, he said, if God is in you, then he's in all of your circumstances too. So you need to remember that. And he said, in any circumstance, you should always be asking God, what are you trying to teach me and how can I partner with you in that? And I was like, whoa, really? Like, I just thought that was really cool because, like, if you approach it like that instead of worry, or, you know what I mean? Like, what are you trying to show me and how can I be, how can I partner with you in that? So it kind of changes. It just like, it's like an automatic perspective shift. And so I thought that was quite interesting and pretty cool. I was like, dude, I know stress is an inside job. I've got my tools all set up most of the time.
That's good. That's good.
And part of it, I think, is looking at it. It's the lens that we use, because we can look. I had someone say, how does it feel to be stuck where you are? And I said, without even hesitating, I'm not stuck. I am positioned. He planted me right where I need to be. I can't tell you what he's doing, so like specifics. He didn't give me all the ahead of time answers, but I know. And a couple of days later, we sent pictures when we were in Saudi Arabia, and we had to wear veils, and all you could see were our eyes. And someone texted me and said, how does it feel to be invisible? And I said, we were protected. We were covered. That was my covering of the Lord, that no one saw me. The enemy couldn't get to me.
Yeah.
So it's a perspective of how we see. You can say, I am quarantined, or I am shut in with God. How many of us have said, our lives, we looked back the other day, and since 2013, we haven't been in one spot more than 6 weeks at a time. This is the longest I have been in one place longer than 6 weeks. And years and years and years. And I had been saying along about December of last year, I just like lost it. And with one of my friends, I'm like, I'm just going to ask God to shut the whole world down if he has to. Those were my words. This all happened. She sent me a message and went, I hope you're happy because this is all your fault. And I was like, what? She was like, you remember what you said? And then we kind of laughed. But God knows what you need, and he will use your circumstances. That what looks like a job that you got fired from is preparation, so that you don't have to go back on a contract or even worry what you should do. You're already ready for what's ahead. But it's all of how I look at it. Do I trust him, and do I believe he has, the steps of the righteous are ordered of God. It doesn't mean I'm perfect, but it means I am perfectly in his will.
Yeah.
So I just have to, on the days that I feel like, get me out of here, I have to go, okay, God, what are you doing? What do you need me to see here? And, we have to intentionally do those things and to see it from that view.
Yeah, I was doing an outreach for my small group. We were collecting goods and stuff for a couple of the ministries here in Lexington early on in the quarantine. I don't even know how long ago it was now. And when I was collecting those, at one of the places I stopped, I fell down the stairs, and I hit my bottom first, then my back, and I hit my head. I hit my head so hard, it still hurts when I touch the back of my head. And I had a severe concussion. I had to have a CT scan. And that was shortly before Paul, I think that was the week that Paul asked me about being apathetic. But even in the quarantine, like I told you, I was like going to the store every day, like organize, and not that these things that I was doing were not good. Like, Step by Step in the day center and Natalie's sisters, like all those ministries needed the supplies I was collecting. But even in the midst of the quarantine, I don't feel like God pushed me down the stairs or anything, but he needed me to be still. And so like he used that time period that's when I started reading my journals. And that's when he brought me back, because I had really been struggling even pre-quarantine I'm just in a period of waiting right now. I'm doing some schooling to get my credentialing, and I left my job to be in ministry at the Rachel's house, and I'm still working with them some, but my role there isn't going to be what I thought it was going to be, which is kind of like what you were saying, Tracy. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
It doesn't look like what I thought it was going to look like. And it literally took me falling down the stairs and not having a choice, but I couldn't get off the couch for like a week for God to bring me to a place where I was just okay with that. I'm okay to be in that season of transition right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard for me to not know. Like, I am a planner. I need to have everything mapped out in a calendar. This is the time, this is the plan. Like, that's just my nature. And so it's really hard for me, but I think God is using that. He's just growing me in that, in my trust and, independence on him. And the funny thing is like, when I came to that point of just saying, it's okay. It's okay if I don't have something to do every single day. Like, I'm going to work on my schoolwork. I'm just going to keep plugging away at that. And it's okay. And then, a few weeks later, like, this thing with Jamie came along, and I just started thinking, like, maybe I'm in a season of transition so that I can be available to help people like Jamie, and to, like, whatever he brings my way, then that's what I'll just pick up in that moment. And so
Yes.
I'm just really learning to be a fly by the seat of my pants kind of girl.
That's good.
Or the seat of God's pants, really.
Even better. Beth, were you going to share anything?
I was, but
Okay.
then I what it was.
Okay. I saw you take it off mute, so I wanted you to be
Yeah,
able
I
to share.
was going to say something because, well, everybody said something that just kind of made me think, but then I started listening and forgot what I was going to say. So, but,
Story of my life.
Me too.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm just waiting right now. And like, I have actually prayed that, like, God, I'm waiting for you to tell me what to do. Like, tell me what to do, because I keep asking for things. Like, I've needed a car for like over a year. And I'm like, God, why are you not bringing me a car? Like, but then I'm starting to think, what do you want me to wait for? Like, what, I'm trying to find some kind of peace in that. Like, God, what's happening? Just, I'll sit here and wait, but just tell me what to wait for.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, that's good. I think the seasons of waiting are really hard, but they're also ones where we tend to draw closer to the Father, because we don't know, and we come to the end of ourselves in that moment too, to realize we can't make it happen either. So it's a season where you realize how reliant we are on Jesus. And there's actually something really powerful about that, because even when we're not waiting, we're still fully reliant on Jesus. We're just sometimes distracted by external factors that sometimes make it seem like we are maybe have it more in control. And underneath the surface, we still need Jesus just as much. So I find those seasons to be some of the most difficult, but then also some of the times that I feel closest to God. Well, I want to really encourage you to read Colossians. I read it. I started reading it on what's today? I started reading it on Tuesday, I think. And it was like I'd never read this book of the Bible in my life. Like, it was just so good. All of a sudden, the Word of God just like was fresh for me. I'm reading it in the Fire Bible. So like, if you have it, like, read the notes. They're so good. I've like highlighted scripture. I've highlighted my study notes. It's all so good. But in chapter 1, he prays a prayer for the people in Colossae. I don't know if that's how you say it. But, and he never, as I was reading this, he didn't plant this church. He hadn't got to visit these people. He was going on the word of somebody else. I think Epaphras is the name of the pastor for that church. But Paul was encouraging them and praying for them in verses 10 through 14, like the last half of verse 9. And I just kind of want to read the scripture as a prayer over all of us tonight. So this is my prayer for you all, that you would be filled with the knowledge of God's will in all spiritual wisdom and understanding, so as to walk in a manner worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing to him, bearing fruit in every good work and increasing in the knowledge of God. May you be strengthened with all power according to his glorious might, for all endurance and patience with joy, giving thanks to the Father who has qualified you to share in the inheritance of the saints in light. He has delivered us from the domain of darkness and transferred us to the kingdom of his beloved Son, in whom we have redemption, the forgiveness of sins. So I just pray that you would be strengthened in these verses, like Paul said, that you would increase in the knowledge of God. You would be strengthened by his supernatural power for all patience and endurance, and that you'd be filled with joy. I'm just so thankful for all of you and for this time together. Thanks for on tonight. That's it. That is all I have. So,
Thank you.
We're all like just sitting here.
yeah, I know I don't want to kick anybody off, but yeah, thanks for joining, and I hope we can all find a way to get back together in person soon. So,
The 24th.
Yeah.
I'm making a surprise for everybody for the 24th.
Oh, nice.
You might not like it though.
Uh-oh.
I was a little bummed out because like we can't have kids ministry right now. It was like, okay, so this is gonna actually go on longer for me. And finally I was like, you know what? For at least one Sunday, I can just see what happens when I bring the kids. Who knows? It could go well, it could go poorly, but I'm gonna try because I'm gonna be here and I'm gonna see my people. So we'll see.
I know that's right.
Yeah,
the first thing I thought when I was thinking about the kids not, anyway, I thought to myself, how are you going to bring those boys to church and I'm not going to hug them? I don't know how that's going to be a thing.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I have to put them on like a chain or something, a leash.
I don't know, man.
Put them in a bubble.
I was like, I guess I could go downstairs and hide.
Yeah.
We'll do our best. We'll do our best.
I just don't, like, I was like looking through some stuff from the lead team and I'm like, I don't know how. I'm like, I am the front door. Give me a high five and a hug before you can get inside the door. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to find a different post because I feel like I will just accidentally do it.
My idea was that everybody should get the big foam fingers. Like everybody gets a big foam finger. Like, you know, when you go to the games, you can high five that way. I mean, you could probably stay 6 feet apart. You can stay.
You probably could. Finger touch.
Yeah.
We need to put the non-huggers in our group at the front door.
Yeah.
Michaela, put Michaela at the front door.
Yeah, you probably won't get a hug from Michaela.
Okay. Yeah, we need to put all of the people who are not good with, who are not okay with social interaction. Those are the new greeters.
Okay, but here's the thing. Those are the people on my team who said, I will do this, this, and this, but I'm not standing at the front door.
But they thought they had to hug people, right? So this is like their serving in their strength. Yeah, this is serving in their strength now.
Exercise those muscles.
Yeah, to be like, don't touch me.
Can't touch this.
Yeah, people will be so happy to see each other. They won't care.
I know.
They just want to be together. So it'll be
Yep.
good. Yeah.
I agree.
Well, y'all have a good night.
Good
Bye.
night.
Yeah.
Bye.